Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. I'm Selena Roane, and I'm your host of Close to Death, powered by Fear Paranormal. Tonight we have a special guest on that is the new director of the National Paranormal Society, and her name is Candy Meehan. Are you here?
Yes, Selena. How are you doing?
I'm doing fairly okay today. A little tired, a little emotional, but other than that, it's going to be good. It's a good day.
Okay. Wonderful.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much.
Good. Well, for those of my audience who are not familiar with you, would you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Candy Meehan, and I live in Norwood, Colorado. I am currently the director of the National Paranormal Society and one of the founders of the Anomalous Phenomenon Research Bureau. NPS has about 10,500 members. APRB has about 8. Our private team primarily does residential investigations, mostly involving small children. And we've been together for about 3.5, 4 years. I've been with NPS since we were lurking at around 1,000 members, so I've seen it really, really grow. I formed a relationship with the founder, Eric Hudson, and shortly after that became a rep and then the webmaster. And then when Eric decided that he was going to pursue other things, he asked me if I would take over the National Paranormal Society for him. Privately investigating and personally, we've done a lot. We've researched cryptoids, hauntings, demonic claims, UFO reports. I am an ancient mysteries buff. I love that. It's something that I know, right? I was just born in the wrong century. Okay.
Not really.
I'm open to everything in the fringe sciences. One of the things we try to reiterate with the National Paranormal Society is to establish a baseline so that we can start documenting these things and move forward and make the scientific community recognize us a little more readily. So.
Yeah, and not a bunch of crazy people who make crap up. I mean, that's what I'm most proud of being a part of NPS is that it's a lot more than just a bunch of discussion. It's actually scientific proof that's been found, or just a study of learning more about it. That's what I like about NPS is that you learn so much. Besides all the crazy comments that some people come on there and say and attack each other, which we nip in the butt really quick. I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And we welcome all perspectives. I don't care if it's Nikola Tesla that motivates you or if it's, belly button land. Right on. Explain it to me and show me how we can bring it to a balance. I only believe that paranormal is actually going to step forward once we're able to take the science and the spirituality and give them both some ground. We're coming out with all sorts of new tech and toys. I have to tell you, I sold industrial parts for a very long time. For 7 years, I sold transmissions for Kenworth, Peterbilt, mining equipment, haul trucks, drive lines, things like that. And a lot of the equipment they used was stuff that we used in our shops. Our electricians, the engine heater, temp finders, those types of things. And so I'm sitting there looking at some of this stuff, shaking my head, going, for God's sakes, it is a paranormal remote control. I'm not real sure I'm down with it. But, if you get a group of people using the same equipment, and you can calibrate it systematically, and you can take readings across the board and have it comparative and have it, within, let's say 5 to 10 milligauss, depending.
Right.
We can start establishing a baseline, and that's something NPS is getting ready to launch as a new project that's going to be posted on our NPS website, where we are going to start having teams anonymously submit data based on their longitude and latitude, U.S. Geological Survey bit of information, U.S. Weather Survey information, and just some basic things. If we can establish a baseline, like what minerals are indigenous to the area, that type of thing, we can calibrate that and establish a baseline, and then bring in the personal experiences later.
Right.
And that'll at least give us some ground to stand on, because right now everybody's just, grabbing a handful of Cheerios and throwing them the crap and going, "That's the one."
Yeah.
Personally,
the shows that are on, some of them a little bit reputable, but a lot of them, they make everything that they do paranormal, and then it makes it harder for us to actually prove that it does exist.
Dude, bugs and hornets and boogers are not paranormal. Yeah, I know, right? One of the funniest experiences we ever had as a team, we were getting some amazing responses off of the Frank's box one time, and I was sitting on the bed in the master bedroom with my teammate, and mind you, people told us the house was completely empty. So we're sitting there, and the IR camera was shining past my shoulder, and I saw eyes coming at me, and they were floating at me, and they were getting closer to me, and they jumped at me. For the love of God, I about peed my pants. It was their cat. And I was, oh my gosh, my teammate was like, I still have nail marks in my arm from where she grabbed a hold of me. I mean, there are so many things on investigations that have to be seen to, and of course that was our oversight. There was an open window and that cat came in, that type of thing. But when we go in, we do a pre-investigation interview. We go out before we ever investigate the house, or we separate the people from their dwelling and interview them. And then when we go in, we take pictures of all four walls, north, south, east, and west. Every outlet gets a reading, and we document all of these for the purposes of trying to establish if it could be, something very explainable, or whether it is indeed paranormal, something beyond the explanation of the normal. A lot of times, people are not very happy with our results, because my team is very, very skeptical, and we take things apart. And we also, if we have a question, we submit our information to another team to have them third party review it with no information involved. Peer review is vicious, but it's wonderful because, it's eye-opening and it's honest. And that's something that happens on the NPS page a lot. Some respectful but brutally honest peer review.
True.
And I'm not knocking the psychic community whatsoever, and no one will ever hear me do that. But I also have not seen an established baseline for many psychics that I respect. Chip, that gentleman has taken a step forward with the paranormal community, and he's one in a billion. Edgar Casey. But these aren't people that are coming in saying that orb is Uncle Fred and he wants you to let the dog out.
Right.
When you're taking pictures in a cemetery and it's 75% precipitation and you're using an iPhone and you got a flash. I think that some people are so desperate for something to be paranormal that everything is.
True. And, I was just watching Lisa's show before this one, and John Zaffis was on there, and he said that, there are people that, do like for people to pay them attention, so whatever they can do to get that attention, and they'll have several different teams come in for the same thing, and they'll be told, what they need to do, but it's just that attention thing. And that they're so desperate to find answers for maybe a loved one or I don't know, but we were talking about that earlier, how we've run across that quite a bit now in the paranormal community because of all the shows that are out there, and they're making everything either paranormal when it's not, or demonic if it is actually paranormal. I mean, they go straight to, demonic, and it's like, not all spirits are pissed off. You know what I'm saying? I would not, like today's my mom's birthday, and I would think that her spirit would not be a pissed off spirit. She would have messages that are friendly and loving and things like that. So I hate when they go straight to, oh my God, it's demonic, and things are all evil in my house, and then they start making themselves, doing the mind tricks on themselves. So
Absolutely.
As well.
Well, now we have to take into consideration. There's a couple things. I have one theory. It's that 40-year-old rejected pom pom girl thing. That it's not high school anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just because it goes bump in the night scares you doesn't mean it's demonic. And I am certainly not under the impression that one religious sect has any more answers than another. I believe that people do not look deeply enough inside of themselves first to find out what's going on. And 26% of Americans in the United States today over the age of 18 are diagnosed with mental illnesses. Yeah. And you take into consideration how many undiagnosed, unreported MIs are going on around. People are self-medicating. How many times have you gone into a house and found out you're dealing with a diabetic who won't take their insulin and stuffing candy bars under their bed? People taking heart medicine. And I'm a snooper, and I'll tell somebody. I'll get them right behind me and walk through their house, and I'll open their medicine cabinet right in front of them, all sorts of stuff. Because if they want me to do an honest and deliberate job, I want honest and deliberate answers.
Right.
We had a case one time that involved the suicide of a minor, very young kid actually, about 14 years of age, and he hung himself in their garage of their condo.
Oh.
And we were called in, and before we even went in, there was a lot of behavioral alerts from the mother and the sister. They lived together in the home. When we got into the home, it was like the atmosphere completely changed when you walked into that house, and they had built altars to him all over the house I bet there was 7 or 8 of them, all with candles that were continually burning. And personally, I have some personal beliefs about, tying stuff up on north, south, east, and west. I'm Wiccan, and I believe in my quarters. And if something was there, it had no chance to find peace. The house, we got some really strange readings in the house, but also we had to take into consideration, we look up on the county assessor's office when things are, built, modifications to the house. We look up electrical, anything we can to find out about the dwelling itself. And it was fairly old, built in the 60s. So some of the outlets were pouring out some pretty intense logos. But when we went into the garage where the young man was found, they had a black ribbon hanging from the rafter. And they'd enshrined it. And
oh my God.
I think that was probably the most disturbing thing I'd ever seen. There was alcohol and substance abuse very evident in the home. They didn't even clean up after themselves. We had to make a decision as a team about what we were going to do. And, this may offend some people, but we ended up calling Department of Human Services and Social, and the mental health clinic in regards to it. And that was only after the clients had come back in and the 7-year-old niece came out. It was a ribbon or a shoe tie around her neck saying she was going to kill herself. We knew at that time, no matter what paranormal claims there was a substantial level of mental illness that we could not participate in or contribute to by our presence.
Right.
And I don't know that a lot of teams out there are going to not only recognize but admit that they can't save somebody in that state of mind. No. We do have some medical professionals in our field, and they're emphatic about the do no harm. And I think the vetting process that we have to go through before we talk to these potential clients is just enormous. And if I found out there was a client that had gone through 3 or 4 teams, I pass on it, because I'm not going to give you the answer you want. I'm going to give you the truth that we find. And if we find nothing, that is precisely what you're going to hear. Right. I'm not going to tell you the dog sneezing is Uncle Bob on an EVP. I'm done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't. Feelings are absolutely valid, but are they verifiable? No. And we have people on our team that are sensitive. And what we do is we take their personal experience and document that and attach it to the report. However, it does not go into the substance of the report because it is not verifiable. And that seems to go against the process of a lot of teams. They, whatever the psychic says is what went on, even though most of them that I run into don't have very good track records. It's, right. I believe, the truth is what I can prove.
Well, speaking of psychics and Chip, I have run into a few that claim to have abilities and, have been proven not. And, that makes it, again, harder for, like, Chip, that actually does have an actual gift, for him to have any credibility because of all the other people who kind of make him, I don't know, his I don't say his job, but it makes his gift look like less than. And that man is absolutely amazing. We have used, actually, the co-founder has abilities on my team, and, she doesn't always go in and start immediately, doing her clairvoyant, whatever she does, her mediumships. She doesn't do that. She's in there to paranormally investigate what is going on. And if she gets a feeling or whatever, she mainly keeps it to herself until we're done.
Excellent.
And then we kind of go from there. And normally, if she doesn't want to know about the location,
excellent,
we won't tell her anything. She won't look it up. I mean, she's just not like that. But if she's not getting anything, I mean, she say, I'm not feeling anything. And some teams have people that'll be like, oh, I just saw something, and everybody else is standing there, no one else saw it. You know what I mean? And just it's about attention, I think, sometimes with some people, and it sucks because the people that actually do have the gift, and I've worked with another one recently that really amazed me. Took her into the case completely blind, and she was nailing it. I mean, it was crazy. We were looking at each other like, whoa.
And that is astounding when that happens. See, with our sensitives, yes, they go into every investigation blind. They are not allowed to know anything. So half the team knows what's going on, and the other half doesn't. And what we do is, with our team of 8, we pair up one who is informed with one who isn't informed. And that way, once we're all done, they have a chance to document their personal experiences or write in their audio recorder right that moment. If it's something, they tagged, timestamp, and away we go. And then they review their evidence and put it together. And we see if we have any consistencies, which is so important, because, we actually, our team drove about 8 hours across Colorado one time to a place called Ray, Colorado. And it was this little tiny house we were investigating. And again, when you walked in, it had this incredible feel to it. Well, come to find out, in the rafters above the dwelling was wiring, exposed wiring, the big, 12-gauge wiring all across the top of the house from the 1920s or 30s. I mean, it was wrapped in paper. It was actually, dude, it was actually pretty phenomenal. But I'm going to tell you, when that man said he was seeing things, I bet he was, because we went over to one of the outlets and it pegged my millimeter. Pegged it. I've never seen it go up that high. And I mean, I was the only one, but I experienced an illness there. Not gonna bother, but I mean, my head started, it went, and you could see the electricity in the air. It was, sparks. We were sitting there, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning. We called it a night. We'd been driving for a long time. Everybody's playing in the living room. We hear this, and we're like, what is that? It got louder. It got louder until, ding, the doorbell went off.
Oh, my God.
It was a built-up back charge from the electrical system. And like I said, I know. But see, the thing is, too, it's hard to say if they were having paranormal experiences because of the offset of the electricity and the mechanics in their brain, or if the electrical stimuli was causing hallucinations. There's no way to differentiate. There's none.
Right.
And so, I mean, there's just so much out there, so many wide open spaces. And, you know, you made a comment about, you know, everything's a demon. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I have to stand aside from so many conversations because just because it goes bump in the night doesn't mean it's a demon. Because it frightens you doesn't mean it's a demon. You know, when the Catholic Church goes to exercise anything, and we had a friend who was actually on our team that was a member of the diocese, was going to take his vows the whole 9 yards. He decided not to, though. He stepped away from that, and he found a woman and fell in love. But no, he's wonderful. They're going to have a baby right now. It's wonderful. But he was studying for his doctorate in psychology. So Ken is just full of all this knowledge. And we were talking about exorcisms, and he said he remembered when he was at seminary studying that they got a call, and they went and reached out to a whole bunch of other churches in the area, mind you, not just Catholic, but had all the churches within a 4 or 5 mile radius praying. Not praying what for, because they weren't to be told, but just praying. And he said that was one of the things that they did when they would go to an exorcism. You know, people of all faith around just pouring that in. And it was never a one-man show, ever. And God, I love Zach Baggins. He does more for a white t-shirt than any other man I've seen in a long time. But it's not always demons. It's not always succubi or incubi or whatever that's groping him. Or he's entertaining, you know. And we've got to keep in mind, too. And I do respect. I'm sure they have had some pretty interesting experiences. Absolutely. But it's gone so Hollywood. It's $1 billion business.
Yeah.
Paranormal is $1 billion business.
Yep.
And when you're paid, you're an actor. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's some people who think they're real.
He's been doing the possessive act for a little while, and now they've kind of backed off of that because they lost me on that for a while. Because I started out watching, you know, Ghost Lab and The Haunting and all that other stuff when I was first started out really getting into it. And then when I started watching Ghost Adventures, man, I never missed an episode. And then when he started, every single time one of them were getting possessed or, you know, they weren't acting right or he was, you know, beating something in the wall, I was like, okay, dude, seriously? I've been to some creepy, creepy places and I've never, ever been possessed. Now, I've felt like you know, said because of the high electricity, we had a case not too long ago, and we were in there, and I didn't know why I was feeling what I was feeling until recently when I was told that I'm an empath. I kind of knew that already, but I kind of blocked the stuff. But I got really sleepy at first, and then I got the most massive headache I've ever had, and then I almost threw up. And I had to actually remove myself from the house, go away across the street for a few minutes, and then I could re-enter. But now I understand that I was picking up whatever emotion that was going on in that house, and it was just in that one room. And it was just so weird that happened. So with the high EMFs that you were getting in that house, they had to have been hallucinating like crazy, but also the paranormal, you know, like we know, feeds off of energy. So it could have very well been a little of all, you know, both them hallucinating and also paranormal stuff going on.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
But it just really is weird how, like you said, you know, you got, you know, sick or felt horrible and it was from EMF, and, you know, your body like is the best piece of equipment. And even Chip said that, you know, I mean, he doesn't really use a whole lot of gadgets when he's on an investigative mode. He does mainly what he feels, and of course he has a little bit more ability on feelings than I do, but the body is definitely the equipment that I go to first. And if I'm feeling something and you can feel heaviness in the air, then yeah, I might set a couple of pieces of equipment down to kind of back up what I'm feeling or whatever. But the EMF stuff, that blows me away that it was that high, that it was pegging off the charts, and that it was backfiring into the doorbell. That's insane.
My husband and the other investigator that went with us, we all were just looking at each other because by that point we were all ill and just absolutely drained. When we did the pre-investigation interview, we took the family members by themselves and interviewed them. Well, they had 2 small children, and I interviewed the little girls alone. One was 5 and one was 3. And the 3-year-old gave me the most bone-chilling interview I have ever probably participated in my entire life. It was interesting. She was very articulate, and she was convincing. I mean, extremely convincing. And so, you take all these personal accounts and squish them together, and with just the energy alone in that home, it was probably one of the most compelling investigations I've been on. I mean, we've had a couple of really interesting ones. Again, like I said, most of them involve minors. Here in Colorado, we have the Stanley, of course, and a couple other venues. But, we really don't have this, and I've mentioned this before, we really don't have the competitive situation that goes on there in Texas.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, and I'm still not understanding all that. I'm trying to stay far away from all that crap. But we do have a question in the chat room, and the question is, besides Eric saying he can fill out a white T-shirt pretty good himself, they were asking, do you ever feel conflicted because of your Wiccan beliefs, or do you think they benefit you on an investigation?
Oh no, honestly, I don't care if it's Jesus, Buddha, Allah, the dirt, belly button lint, or a peanut butter sandwich that makes you feel stronger and like you're one. Right. I encourage that. Find your passion and let it drive you. I became a Wiccan about a year and a half ago, but I'm Native American also. So yes. I have been having experiences my entire life. Oh my gosh, I hope there's no therapist out there listening to me right now.
I doubt I'll be listening to my show, but
you don't hear from me, man. Send money. No, I believe that my Wiccan beliefs have opened me up to a lot of different things. Simply because I feel like I get the bigger picture now. In many of the pantheons, you have similar gods. Zeus and Odin, they were the fathers, they were the rulers. And you just see how they're separated across the world. I believe that a similar message was being delivered to all. And I think it was, culturally tailored to fit that group of people. Do I believe that Jesus lives? I absolutely do. Do I believe the twists that have been put on man's version of the Bible? I have conflict with that. And that is something that is my personal conflict. Right. I'm not asking for any answers. I am also completely convinced there's been alien influence on our culture.
Oh, yeah.
You can't look at the pyramids. You can't look at Mayan culture. All of these things, the Incans, the Anasazis, the Hopi, talking about star people. Mathematically, it's impossible that we're the only ones. But the question is, are we the only ones here? Have we been the only ones here? So
no,
we're still in pursuit of that.
So. I don't think we are. And getting to that is so weird because, when I started delving into the paranormal, it was when I was a child, really. I mean, having prophetic dreams and things like that. And I'm also have Native American heritage. So a lot of my great grandmothers, had abilities and things like that. But I lost track of what I was going to say. But anyway, I do that a lot. I have ADD, so it goes pew. But anyway, go ahead. You can finish up now. I'll think of it in a minute.
No, I just think with my beliefs that I needed something for me a little broader than Christianity. And
right.
My beliefs in Wicca have given me that opportunity to stand back and take a larger perspective. I believe in the balance of man and woman, because without one, you're not going to have the other. I just have a hard time believing some of the stories and whatnot. And
True.
You know, my children, well, I encourage them to go to church. I encourage them to follow their path. And, people raise their eyebrows at me. I think I sit in the backyard in a pentagram biting the heads off of chickens or some shit. I'm not sure either that. Or making margaritas at midnight in purple. I do not wear purple very often, but I do make midnight margaritas. I think it's important for me to have a larger view. On NPS a few times, I've had people get upset with me and call me a non-believer. I mean, even for my Wiccan beliefs and whatnot, I'm very skeptical, and I want something substantial. If you're gonna put something out there, tell me why. Make me understand your point of view and your perspective, so I have the opportunity to learn and maybe broaden my view. It's a teaching and learning situation. Like I said, I have nothing but amazement for religion and theology, and all that encompasses, because it goes right down to the very core of who we are as people. And I don't care who you follow or what you do. Right down to the very core of it, you know what's right and what's wrong.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, they say that you seem to be more of a goat sacrificer and that you skip chickens.
Oh yeah, no, it's just men.
But no, what I was talking about earlier about the alien thing, back to that, because I finally got my thought back. Kenny, my best friend, and I used to always watch everything UFO, and we finally went to Cancun and saw Chichen Itza in person, and we were both convinced that there's no way that they could have rolled those huge stones up by themselves. I don't care what kind of contraption or pulley system they might have had. We had help building those pyramids, and we've also, if you could look at the technology that is so crazy, from one thing to, like we had in '87 when I was in high school, we didn't have cell phones or iPads or anything like that, and yeah, it's been 30 years almost, and we're not going to go there, but the technology has just went, in leaps and bounds like crazy, to where where did that come from? I swear it has to be alien influenced, and my best friend Kenny would always say, oh man, there's definitely more than us here on this planet. I have a major feeling that the government's not telling us way more than we think they're not telling us about the aliens and stuff. We don't even I was in Phoenix during the Phoenix Lights, and we actually lived out by the White Tanks Mountain in Litchfield Park, off a road called Jackrabbit Trail, and we lived out behind the Air Force Base, and we'd see planes and all sorts of very interesting things flying in and out. But Phoenix Lights were something absolutely different. It directs me to the mysteries of Skinwalker Ranch. A lot of people want to know what's going on out there in Duchesne, Utah. And it's really interesting because the farmer and his wife that actually owned that piece of property had some pretty incredible things happen to them. Like, the one that's most profound in my mind is that, they were having all these weird cattle mutilations. And his wife and he decided to go to the store one day, which is about an hour and a half drive, because they lived very, very rurally. And he mentioned to his wife, if we ever lost the bulls, it'd sink us. We'd be done. When they got back, those bulls were loaded up in the back of a trailer, a cattle trailer, stacked on top of each other, dead. Now, these weren't hand-fed babies. These were, bulls are aggressive. There was no trail to get those animals into the trailer. And anybody knows anything about hurting any animals or tracking or anything, there's going to be marks. There's going to be struggle. There's going to be blood on the ground, right? Yes.
None of it. There was no tracks off of a bobcat, a skid steer, or anything. It looked like, or forklift. It looked like it could have loaded those animals in there. When the people threw their hands in the air and said, "We're done. This place is sick. We got to go," an aeronautics billionaire out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Robert Bigelow, stepped in and bought that place and locked it down tighter than Fort Knox. What would an aeronautics billionaire want that little piece of land that the Indians, the Gashane Utes, won't go near? What on earth could that have been? And I mean, the conspiracy theories are just endless and boundless, and I promise you that place is harder to infiltrate than Congress, at happy hour. It's horrible. And they'll meet you at the gates. They're not very nice. No, They're not letting you in there. It's just very interesting why someone with that stature and that grip on technology would want that little piece of land in Utah.
Oh, no doubt.
That's not the only thing that's weird that goes on. I mean, we've got so many mysteries on our hands. Like Area 51. I mean,
oh yeah,
the Air Force was actually talking to. I know, right? The Air Force was actually talking to the public and telling them, yes, we're picking up the craft. And then all of a sudden, it's like somebody flipped a switch, and the farmers, didn't know what they were talking about. Everybody hushed and got quiet,
and things disappeared. Some of them,
and things got really weird.
Yeah.
So, do I trust my government? No, not at all. And I don't think Thomas Jefferson or George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or any of the fathers we look back on with pride and hope would be pleased at all.
No.
We were supposed to find out the Kennedy assassination was supposed to be declassified years ago. They still want to classify it. The government hides a lot of stuff from us. So do I think that they know about, aliens? Oh yeah.
I think they have. I think they have like concentration camps around, the world that have aliens in them, and they're using them for technology. But maybe I'm just crazy. But we do have another question: who is the chairperson for ufology in the NPS?
Me.
You.
Yeah, aliens and UFO is still my division.
Wow. So I'm sure that's like. Because I know that Kenny taped every single UFO anything that was ever on VHS, and know that I inherited every single one of them. So I have so many UFO shows on VHS. If you ever need a VHS show on UFOs,
okay,
I'm your girl. So what is the best that evidence that you've ever captured on an investigation, or just messing around?
Oh, okay. There's we were doing the project where we would go to graveside markers and do a standard set of questions. And we did this at midnight. It was kind of some poor judgment, I think, on our parts, because some of these markers were on interstates and what have you. But I got a Class A EVP. I asked, can you tell me what year it is? Clear as a bell. It goes, I did.
Wow.
We played the group played it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Let's see. We had some pretty interesting things. Redstone Castle is up by Glenwood, Colorado, and it's pretty beautiful and amazing. Well, the farmhouse that was utilized by the gentleman who built Redstone Castle was actually owned by the grandfather of one of our team members. His name was Frank Moreau or Merceau. Well, anyway, the gentleman is a famous artist. He's got pictures at the Museum of Natural Arts and History. Still to this day, actually, it's a mural. Well, we got to stay in the home, and it was amazing. Keyboard all over the floors, just amazing. And these great big, heavy oak doors. Well, Jim and I were trying to get into one of the doors, and it was locked. It was locked from the inside. We're sitting there jiggling the handle, and we both put our hands down, and we just kind of looked at it, and the door unlocked right there in front of us. And he and I looked at each other, and we stood there another minute, and we locked the door, and Jim reached up and opened the door, and it went wide open. And we went and talked to the team members about it, and because, that was surreal. That was surreal. And that night when we all went to bed, we locked all the doors from the inside because they had bears. And I'm like, okay. So we get up in the morning, and I had to go, I've got a bladder size of a peanut. So I got up like 5:30 in the morning, and I went downstairs, and there was no being sneaky going anywhere in that house because of the way the boards creaked. So I'm going down the stairs, and the inside door is wide open. but the screen door was all locked up. So I ran back upstairs, and I got my husband and I got Jim, and we came all running downstairs. We're all just kind of sitting there looking at the door, just all in disbelief, you know. It was very interesting. And he kept making some jokes about how his grandmother would not have approved of single women sleeping in the house. and that's what he attributed to some of the activity to, you know. But the door opening, the lock turning, that was probably one of the strangest things I've ever seen. I've had a bunch of experiences as a child, but those, you know, those are, I go and get by the grain bins, and, you know, I'd see tribal dances. My grandmother was always the one to find me too, and she told me it's okay. It's, you know, it's just Papa dancing, you know. She was talking about, you know, her grandpa and things like that. And, oh yeah. And, you know, my husband and I, well, this one's a good one. We were driving between Grand Junction, Colorado and Delta, Colorado. And if you know anything about the area, we're high desert is what we are here. And I was listening to Tally talk, and we're sitting in this pickup truck, and I kind of glanced out over my left shoulder, and everything was green, and there was a herd of buffalo, and I could smell the herd, smell the grass, hear the animals, and I could feel wind on my face. Mind you, the windows were up in the truck. And I looked for a second, I looked back over my husband, and I said, when did they start herding buffalo out here? And he looked at me and he goes, what are you talking about? And I turned back and I looked. And they're gone. It's gone. And I made him pull over, and I walked back 10 feet, you know, and I went out like 100 yards into just the dirt. And I just stood there for a second. And I mean, it was a real moment for me. I wrote that one down. So, you know, there've been things, you know, and I'm sure that everyone's had some moments. You know how you and I were talking about psychic abilities. I absolutely believe that every single person inherently is born with it. But I do believe that systematically we shut it down. Like tragedies may shut it down or may open it up, you know, possibly, you know, with what you experienced with your mom might keep you more open to those people. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, I know I shut it down when I was younger because of the dreams that I had. And the one that I had therapy over, was, you know, I blamed myself for me dreaming it caused the accident, and therefore my dad's best friend lost his life. And, you know, I was like 11 or 12 years old. And I mean, I took that guilt very, very hard because I really thought, because I'd had dreams, you know, throughout my life, and every time they would come true, and it would be like more like a deja vu type thing. Nothing like, you know, that had anything to do with death, and until that dream. And it was so weird. And, you know, you go through stuff, and yes, you do shut it down because some of them are pretty scary that I had. So now I'm trying to open that ability back up, and it's not as easy to open up as it definitely was to shut down. But I am doing that a little at a time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to rush it, at all. So what, where have you wanted to go, but you haven't been able to, like a bucket list location?
Ireland. Germany, because besides being Native American, I'm very, very German. Okay. Anything Viking. I love that.
Well, there's actually, Texas Ghostly Gatherings has actually got a deal going in 2015 to stay in a castle and have full run of it for 6 or 7 days, and it includes airfare, transfers, everything, and it's like $1,800, and you make a payment plan. It's amazing, and they're going in 2015. There's like 4 spots left.
Send that to me because my husband.
Okay, I'll do that.
You
well, could you tell everybody where they can find you and on Facebook and everything? And
sure, you can find me. My name is Candy Meehan, and you can find me on the page with National Paranormal Society. You can also find me with the Anomalous Phenomenon Research Bureau. Type in APRB, you'll probably find it easier that way. Or you can visit our website at www.aprbsociety.org. national-paranormal-society.org.
Yeah, buddy. I appreciate you being on my show tonight, Candy. I really do.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it too.
All right, girl. I will be talking to you very soon.
Hey, you or Kenny come towards me about that UFO division. I'd be happy to put somebody in the chair department for you.
All righty then. Thanks a lot, girl. You have a great weekend. Or week, actually.
Bye, Selena.
Bye-bye. That was Candy Meehan, the director of National Paranormal Society, and she has just gotten the directorship very recently because Eric Hudson went to do other things. I want to thank her for being on my show for sure. I also have a lot of other things to discuss tonight. One, Fear is taking on the role of selling Chip Coffee Talk tickets. They will be on our website on the events tab, Fear Paranormal. .wix.com, and fear-1 is what you got to put in there to get to our website. Just click the events tab, and then we also have you can get tickets for HHL, the History, Haunts, and Legends, which is in Jefferson, April the 12th. I will actually be speaking at that event, and we'll also have the Ghost Hunter store table. Then there is the Tyler Paracon, which I've been asked to speak at recently, and that is April 26th. There will be Kevin Betzer and Randy from Deep South Paranormal. They're really cool guys. I met them actually at the Myrtles on this last weekend. Then we have the Granbury Paranormal Expo that's coming up in May. If you would like to have anything as far as fear gear, like t-shirts or anything with fear, just go to our Facebook page, Fear Paranormal Society, and send us an inbox message. If you have a case that you'd like for us to check out, do the same. You can also look for Close to Death Facebook page. Give it a like. Next week, I've got a pretty cool guest. Her name is Kristen Luman. You might be familiar with her from the Ghost Lab. Ghost Mine, excuse me, my bad. They're trying to renew Ghost Mine for a third season, so she's going to be on to kind of talk about that next week. I would like to thank my sponsors, Syntex Roof Systems. They do more than just roofs. They're now remodeling, doing renovations, buildings outside, everything. So just give them a call, Syntex Roof Systems in Waco. They're on it. And then my last and final sponsor, my good friends Wendy and Wes Flanagan at Flanagan's Party Barn in Waxahachie. They will be more than happy to hook you up with any kind of party that you want. Just give them a call. I will be back next week, like I said, with Kristen Luman. I wanted to take a second and, in honor of my mother, happy birthday in heaven, and love you, and that's it. Peace out.
Belly button land. Right on. Explain it to me and show me how we can bring it to a balance. I only believe that the paranormal is actually going to actually going to step forward once we're able to take the science and the spirituality and give them both some ground. We're coming out with all sorts of new tech and toys. I have to tell you, I sold industrial parts for a very long time. For 7 years, I sold transmissions for Kenworth, Peterbilt, mining equipment, haul trucks, drive lines, things like that. And a lot of the equipment they used was stuff that we used in our shops. Our electricians, the engine heater, temp finders, those types of things. And so I'm sitting there looking at some of this stuff, shaking my head, going, for God's sakes, it is a paranormal remote control. I'm not real sure down with it. But if you get a group of people using the same equipment, and you can calibrate it systematically, and you can take readings across the board and have it comparative, and have it within let's say 5 to 10 milligauss, depending.
Right.
We can start establishing a baseline, and that's something NPS is getting ready to launch as a new project that's going to be posted on our NPS website, where we are going to start having teams anonymously submit data based on their longitude and latitude.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. I'm Selena Roane, and I'm your host of Close to Death, powered by...
We've researched cryptoids, hauntings, demonic claims, UFO reports. I am an ancient mysteries buff. I love that. It's something that I know, right? I was just born in the wrong century. Okay.
Not really.
I'm open to everything in the fringe sciences. One of the things we try to reiterate with the National Paranormal Society is to establish a baseline so that we can start documenting these things and move forward and make the scientific community recognize us a little more readily. So.
Yeah, and not a bunch of crazy people who make crap up. That's what I'm most proud of being a part of NPS, is that it's a lot more than just a bunch of discussion. It's actually scientific proof that's been found, or this a study of learning more about it. That's what I like about NPS, is that you learn so much. Besides all the crazy comments that some people come on there and say and attack each other, which we nip in the butt really quick. I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And we welcome all perspectives. I don't care if it's Nikola Tesla that motivates you, or if it's
Fear Paranormal. Tonight we have a special guest on that is the new director of the National Paranormal Society, and her name is Candy Meehan. Are you here?
Yes, Selena. How are you doing?
I'm doing fairly okay today. A little tired, a little emotional, but other than that, it's going to be good. It's a good day.
Okay. Wonderful.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much.
Good. Well, for those of my audience who are not familiar with you, would you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Candy Meehan, and I live in Norwood, Colorado. I am currently the director of the National Paranormal Society and one of the founders of the Anomalous Phenomenon Research Bureau. NPS has about 10,500 members. APRB has about 8. Our private team primarily does residential investigations, mostly involving small children. And we've been together for about 3.5, 4 years. I've been with NPS since we were lurking at around 1,000 members, so I've seen it really, really grow. I formed a relationship with the founder, Eric Hudson, and shortly after that became a rep and then the webmaster. And then when Eric decided that he was going to pursue other things, he asked me if I would take over the National Paranormal Society for him. I'm privately investigating and personally, we've done a